You are not losing money because of one bad decision. You are losing it because nothing ever forces you to stop. No alarms, no breaking point, no moment where the damage announces itself. The drain is quiet, steady, and familiar. It happens while your life feels normal, while your income feels stable, while you tell yourself you are doing fine. That assumption is the weakness. Money does not disappear loudly. It leaves quietly if you let it. That is not an opinion. It is a condition. Every month you repeat the same small behaviors, the same defaults, the same passive approvals. The outflow continues without resistance. There is no drama in this process. There is only erosion. And erosion does not care how hard you work, how disciplined you believe you are, or how reasonable your lifestyle feels. If you are listening, it is because some part of you already knows this is happening. Stay there. You lose money because you let convenience decide for you. Not once, every day, quietly, repeatedly. This drain does not come from luxury. It comes from small automatic choices you stopped questioning a long time ago. Subscriptions you barely notice. Services that renew without asking. Monthly charges that feel too small to confront, so you ignore them. Individually, they seem harmless. Together, they behave like a system designed to siphon money without resistance. You do not wake up one morning poorer. You simply wake up unchanged, month after month, while the outflow never pauses. This is middle-class reality. You work regular hours. Your income arrives on schedule. Your bills are paid. Nothing feels out of control. That feeling is exactly what allows this drain to survive. Convenience thrives where attention disappears. When a payment no longer requires a decision, it no longer triggers friction. And without friction, money moves out effortlessly. You stop seeing it as spending. It becomes background noise, familiar, accepted, invisible. Think of it like a slow leak in a tire. You can still drive, the car still moves, nothing dramatic happens at first, but you are never at full capacity and you do not notice until performance quietly degrades. The behavioral truth is simple and uncomfortable. You are not being overcharged, you are being passive. Convenience is not neutral, it is a trade. You trade awareness for comfort, and the cost is not negotiated, it is imposed. Every automatic expense survives because you allow it to avoid scrutiny. You do not cancel because canceling requires effort. You do not review because reviewing forces confrontation. So you defer, and deferral is not inactivity, it is permission. This drain accelerates in stable periods. When nothing is wrong, you stop auditing your life. You assume stability means efficiency. It does not. Stability often means stagnation disguised as order. The systems around you benefit from that assumption. They rely on your silence. They rely on you being busy enough not to care, comfortable enough not to react, and tired enough to postpone decisions indefinitely. What makes this drain dangerous is not the money itself. It is the habit it trains. You become accustomed to money leaving without discussion. You internalize the idea that small losses are beneath your attention. Over time, that mindset expands. You stop questioning fees. You stop questioning price increases. You stop questioning whether the value is still there. Not because you agree, but because disagreement feels inconvenient. This is not about discipline. It is about tolerance. You tolerate leaks because they do not hurt immediately. You tolerate them because confronting them feels petty. You tolerate them because you believe bigger problems deserve your focus. That belief is how erosion wins. Big losses rarely appear first. They are built on layers of ignored small ones. And here is the quiet judgment you cannot avoid. If you cannot defend your money from things that ask nothing from you, you will never notice when larger drains arrive disguised as normal life. The habit of inattention does not stay small. It scales. This is not the only silent drain. It is simply the one that trains you to stop paying attention. And once attention is gone, the next drain does not need to hide as carefully. You lose money because you confuse affordability with control. You see a number you can handle, and you stop thinking beyond it. This drain lives inside monthly payments that feel reasonable, not large enough to alarm you, not small enough to ignore completely. They sit in the middle where justification feels easy. A payment split into pieces looks lighter than it is. It feels organized. It feels managed. And because it feels managed, you stop evaluating the total weight. You focus on what leaves this month, not what stays tied up for years. This is how salaried life trains you to think. Income arrives in cycles. Bills follow schedules. As long as the math works on paper, you assume the decision was sound. But affordability is not the same as freedom. A payment you can afford still limits you. It narrows options quietly. It reduces flexibility without announcing the cost. And because nothing breaks, you accept the constraint as normal. Picture a room where the ceiling lowers by an inch every month. You can still stand. You can still move. You adjust without noticing. One day, the space feels tight, but you cannot point to when it happened. The behavioral pattern here is subtle. You anchor your comfort to the present moment. If this month works, you approve the structure. You do not ask what this commitment does to your future choices. You do not ask how many decisions are already spoken for before you even arrive there. You only check whether today feels manageable. And most of the time, it does. That feeling is misleading. Monthly commitments compound in silence. Each one claims a slice of your future attention, your future income, your future margin. Not aggressively, politely. With contracts, reminders, and predictable withdrawals. Over time, your financial life becomes pre-decided. You are not actively choosing anymore. You are maintaining. This drain does not require irresponsibility. It thrives on responsibility, on being dependable, on honoring commitments, on keeping things stable. It rewards people who dislike disruption, people who prefer smoothness over friction, people who equate consistency with safety. The system around you reinforces this. Regular payments look mature. Structured obligations look adult. Flexibility looks risky. But flexibility is what disappears first. There is no moral failure here. There is only a pattern. You optimize for short-term comfort and call it prudence. You tell yourself that spreading costs makes life easier. In reality, it makes life quieter, not lighter. The pressure does not vanish. It just spreads thin enough that you stop reacting to it. And once you normalize that pressure, it becomes invisible. You stop noticing how much of your future income is already spoken for. You stop imagining alternatives because alternatives require space. Space requires margin. Margin is what monthly obligations consume first. Here is the judgment you cannot soften. If your financial life only works when nothing changes, it is fragile, and fragility does not announce itself until it is tested. This drain teaches you to accept limitation as structure, to mistake predictability for security, to believe that as long as the numbers line up today, they will line up tomorrow. That belief is convenient. It is also how you lose the ability to adapt. And adaptation is what the next drain quietly removes. You lose money because your lifestyle adjusts faster than your awareness, not in leaps, in inches. This drain does not appear as excess. It appears as normalization, small upgrades, slightly better options, marginal improvements that feel deserved rather than chosen. You earn more or you feel more established, and the baseline shifts without a conversation. Nothing extravagant happens. No single decision stands out. Your life simply becomes more expensive, and you treat that cost as the natural order of progress. This is how lifestyle inflation avoids detection. It never argues. It agrees with you. It tells you this is reasonable now, that you have earned this level, that this is not indulgence, just alignment with where you are in life. And because the changes are incremental, you do not experience them as decisions. They feel like adjustments, necessary, logical, mature. Imagine a thermostat that is adjusted upward by a degree each week. The room never feels hot. It just stops feeling cool. You notice the cost long after the comfort has become baseline. The middle class trap here is identity. You do not want to feel stuck. You do not want to feel behind. So when your surroundings improve slightly, you accept it as confirmation that you are moving forward. The problem is not improvement. It is unexamined permanence. Temporary upgrades become permanent expectations. What once felt optional becomes non-negotiable. And once something is non-negotiable, questioning it feels like regression. This drain is reinforced socially. You are not comparing yourself to extremes. You are comparing yourself to peers, to coworkers, to neighbors, to people who look like you and live like you. That makes the shift feel safe, shared, normal. If everyone is doing it, it cannot be reckless. That logic is comforting. It is also how collective behavior masks individual risk. Here is the uncomfortable behavioral truth. You are not maintaining a lifestyle. Your lifestyle is maintaining itself through you. Each increase locks in future costs that assume continued stability. Continued income, continued health, continued predictability, none of those are guaranteed, but your expenses behave as if they are. This is not about discipline or restraint. It is about awareness. When upgrades happen automatically, so do their consequences. You do not feel the pressure immediately because the increase is small, but the cumulative effect is heavy. You carry it quietly, month after month, until flexibility disappears. Not dramatically, gradually. Lifestyle inflation also changes how you perceive money. You stop seeing it as a tool and start seeing it as maintenance. Money becomes something that preserves your current state rather than expands your options. You work to sustain what you have, not to build margin. That shift is subtle, but it is decisive. Once maintenance becomes the priority, growth slows without resistance. And there is a deeper cost that rarely gets named. When your lifestyle rises automatically, discomfort becomes unfamiliar. Any reduction feels like failure. Any pullback feels like loss. You become psychologically invested in a level of spending that was never intentionally chosen. That makes future adjustments emotionally expensive, even when they are necessary. The judgment here is quiet but firm. Progress that cannot be reversed without pain is not progress. It is entrenchment. You have not moved forward. You have settled into a higher cost position that requires constant defense. This drain does not announce itself as a mistake. It announces itself as normal life. That is why it survives. That is why it spreads. And that is why, when pressure finally arrives, the options are already gone. The next drain does not raise your costs. It removes your margin. Most people organize money to feel stable. Stability feels responsible. It feels adult. But stability without margin is just fragility that hasn't been tested yet. Money does not disappear loudly. It leaves quietly when you stop watching it. You did not hear anything extreme in this. No crisis, no collapse, no warning sirens, just patterns that look normal until you add time. Small automatic losses, commitments that feel affordable, lifestyles that quietly harden, systems built with no room to breathe. None of these are dramatic on their own. Together, they explain why so many people work for years and feel like they never move. This is not about intelligence. It is about attention. You can be careful and still be passive. You can be disciplined and still be trapped inside structures you never reevaluated. The danger is not making a wrong move. It is never stopping to notice the direction you are already going. If you are serious about not being surprised in 2026, you do not need motivation. You need honesty. You need to accept that what feels normal may already be costing you more than you realize. If you are tired of working and still standing still, it is not because you failed. It is because quiet systems have been operating without your involvement. There is no reassurance here, no promise that awareness fixes everything, only this: people who notice early experience fewer shocks later. People who don't are always caught off guard, convinced that the problem appeared suddenly. It rarely does. This ends here. Most people organize money to feel stable. Stability feels responsible. It feels adult. But stability without margin is just fragility that hasn't been tested yet. Money does not disappear loudly. It leaves quietly when you stop watching it. You did not hear anything extreme in this. No crisis, no collapse, no warning sirens, just patterns that look normal until you add time. Small automatic losses, commitments that feel affordable, lifestyles that quietly harden, systems built with no room to breathe. None of these are dramatic on their own. Together, they explain why so many people work for years and feel like they never move. This is not about intelligence. It is about attention. You can be careful and still be passive. You can be disciplined and still be trapped inside structures you never reevaluated. The danger is not making a wrong move. It is never stopping to notice the direction you are already going. If you are serious about not being surprised in 2026, you do not need motivation. You need honesty. You need to accept that what feels normal may already be costing you more than you realize. If you are tired of working and still standing still, it is not because you failed. It is because quiet systems have been operating without your involvement. There is no reassurance here, no promise that awareness fixes everything, only this: people who notice early experience fewer shocks later. People who don't are always caught off guard, convinced that the problem appeared suddenly. It rarely does. This ends here.